Hi, good morning, Ashley and Nate. So this was not the outcome that many had predicted. Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley beat Francesca Hong by less than a percentage point. Establishment Democrats are certainly celebrating this win. They were afraid that a Hong victory would essentially hand the GOP the keys to the governor's mansion in November. Hong had faced scrutiny over previous social media posts and lacked the endorsements of prominent progressives like Senator Bernie Sanders and AOC. Her narrow loss coming on the heels of a close race in Michigan showing that centrist voters still yield significant influence, especially in swing states. Crowley will now take on Republican Tom Tiffany in November. But the far left did get a boost in Minnesota, where progressive candidate Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan beat moderate Congresswoman Angie Craig to win the Democratic nomination for Senate. Flanagan was backed by Sanders, and she will face former sports broadcaster Michelle Tafoya in the general election. Meantime, Senator Amy Klobuchar will go head-to-head with Lisa Demuth for governor in Minnesota. Klobuchar easily won the primary, while Demuth beat Republican Mike Lindell, who was supported by President Trump. And in South Carolina, the late Senator Lindsey Graham's sister, Darlene, will head into a runoff with Ralph Norman, as no candidate got majority support.
First, I want to say that this is a very emotional night, because I'm usually standing here celebrating with Lindsay. So I know he's looking down right now, smiling though, so that gives me peace, but it's difficult. Secondly, I want to say thank you. Thank you to God for carrying my family and me through some of the most challenging times we've ever had the past few weeks.
The runoff will take place on August 25th.
Hong got schlonged, is what we're going to say today. This, the great schlonging shall continue. This is exactly what happened in Wisconsin yesterday. And because it's August, and because these are the little scraps of news and information that we have, and we have so many weird things that are happening right now across the country, why not just focus on what happened in Wisconsin? Because I think Democrats stole an election, again, live on TV. And not even NBC News can believe their eyes when they watch the results roll in. Today is Wednesday, August 12th, 2026. We'll cover all of it as socialist, communist star Francesca Hong is schlonged on live TV. And it is something to see. Democrats are raging right now. Governor Scott Walker will be joining us, along with Senator Ron Johnson and Zach Lon, and now Mark Mitchell. It's like we have a hell of a show locked in for you. So it's a great election show. Will Trump declare a national emergency for the Save America Act? We'll cover it all today. My name is Benny Johnson, and this is The Benny Show. Advantage Gold. Gold is doing great. Ticking up, 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 up. You should have listened to us. Did you listen to us? It's doing well. You know, it's like a lot of things. Insolvency with the American dollar. This is never a great thing. But then also markets stabilizing, the globe stabilizing. It seems like what's happening in Iran is just kind of be like a boring stalemate, and things are just going to, I think, slowly atrophy back to normal. And that means that nations are buying gold. That means that nations are buying not digital gold, not oil gold, gold. It's maintained its value for all time. It can maintain its value in your portfolio. Text Benny to 85545 today, Benny to 85545 today to get your free gold investment kit and learn a simple IRS-approved strategy to make sure that your future is gold today. Okay, so let's talk about something that's solid gold. I want to, it's the reason why I'm saying the word schlonged so much. This is one of my all-time favorite Trump clips ever, and he's talking about what happened to Hillary Clinton with Barack Obama. Donald Trump, Hillary got schlonged. Okay. Here's.
No, it's too disgusting. Don't say it. It's disgusting. Let's not do it. We want to be very, very straight up, okay?
Okay. Let's be
But I thought wasn't that a weird deal? We're ready to start. They were looking. They gave her every benefit of the doubt because, you know, it's ABC and she practically owns ABC.
Okay,
she
so
really
then
does.
Trump talks about how Hillary got the election stolen from her.
I don't know. How does it get worse? But she was going to beat. She was favored to win, and she got schlonged. She lost. I mean, she lost.
He got schlonged. Donald Trump used the slang term schlonged to describe what Barack Obama did to Hillary Clinton. Trump, my use of schlonged was not vulgar. Well, it happened again, ladies and gentlemen. It happened again. What is Hillary Clinton? But a far left-wing, insufferable spoiler for the Democrats' historic moment. That's what she would have been in 2008. Hillary Clinton was obviously beatable. And Francesca Hong is a far left-wing radical feminist spoiler, also a communist, but I think Hillary Clinton does too. And wow, Francesca Hong is somebody who really hates white people, like really hates white people. Radical in the streets, colonizer in the sheets. She's married to white people. She has a half-white kid, but boy, white male chefs, before you sign up for charity gigs and shit that's going to give you good press, look around the room and check. Is there someone there you haven't shared a meal with that doesn't have the same genitals as you, has nicer skin than you? You're disgusting white skin. Yeah, Francesca Hong talked about how she wanted to kill Trump.
In the restaurant industry, when we're out of something, we say it's 86th. And I'd say it's about fucking time we 86 Trump.
Okay, cool. Got it. Francesca Hong hates Thanksgiving. Obviously, you've seen the memes. She hates the police. She wants to abolish the police, except for the police who protect her. I mean, obviously. She's disgusted that her son is half white. Well, you had something to do with that. You are married to this white dude. Wisconsin is 80% white, one of the whitest states in the whole country. You decided to move there when you emigrated from South Korea or North Korea. I've never gotten a straight answer on this. I went on Fox News and says she's from Korea. She's Korean, so she's from North Korea because her policies say she's from North Korea. She thanked the Ho-Chunk land and used her pronouns the first time she got a chance to speak on the House floor.
First time, lady from the 76.
And to clarify, the lady from the 76 pronouns are she, her, hers.
It's so performative. It's so fun. She is not sure if she wants to abolish prisons. Who knows? You know, who knows? She is sure she wants to stop Thanksgiving, though. She said Thanksgiving has real trauma for people here in America. What do you mean, lady? You just got here. What do you mean trauma? I'm not traumatized by a Korean. Kang? Is Kang watching? Kangmin. Is there a Korean holiday? I don't know. Do you know a Korean holiday? Klein Wong works on this show. Klein's on right now. Klein, are there Korean holidays? I'm not offended by any Korean holidays. Surely there's a Korean holiday about like invading the North and slaughtering everyone or whatever, okay? Maybe it's offensive to some people. I'm not offended by it. Why are you offended by Thanksgiving, lady? You have nothing to do with Thanksgiving. You showed up 250 years after Thanksgiving. After all the corn cobs got shoved and turkeys got broiled and Indians got smallpox. So you have nothing to say on Thanksgiving. Sit down, shut up. But I don't like, but these people, it's all performative. It's like they just got here and they complain about the things that we all love. Hassan Piker says a Republican will never be elected in this state ever again, says Hassan. Okay, well, look at this. Hong by a gong. Hong got, look at these polls. Look at this. I can't wait to talk to our pollster, Mark Mitchell, who's on. Hong by 22, 18, 25, 29, 20. What is this averaging? Hong by 25 points. She was supposed to walk away with it. Then all of a sudden, Steve Urkel comes busting in. Did I do that? Did I do that? Here's the dude. This is the dude who won last night. Won. You never heard of him. Nobody even knows who he is. Straight off Family Matters. Like literally falls ass backwards and now I win. Suddenly he's won. How'd that happen? Nobody knew the hell this guy was. He wasn't even registering in the polls. Oh, look at that. David Crowley is now going to be running for governor. It's going to be the governor's candidate in Wisconsin. What's a David Crowley? Well, we have a little clip of him. Can we put that one up? The one with the pink shirt. You'll see what I mean with the Steve Urkel thing here. Go.
I would argue we have to listen to independents and Republicans because we don't have a monopoly on good ideas.
Oh, okay. He says, we have to work with Republicans. It's like the Barack Obama sort of like lines, and they've trotted them out, and they just made them. They just literally made them. They kicked Fox News out last night of the Francesca Hong party. She didn't invite Fox to be part of their Thanksgiving table. But NBC News had the most hilarious coverage of the live theft of the election last night. And that's what I believe happened. You can tell me whatever you want, whatever your opinions are. But they had an emergency press conference late in the evening in Wisconsin, in Milwaukee, of course, where they trot out, probably a Ho-Chunk Indian here. I don't know if she's part of the Ho-Chunk Indian tribe. Based on the name of it, I'd assume that'd be the Lizzo tribe or Whoopi Goldberg tribe. But what do I know? I'm not sure. I have no clue. But I do know this. They stole it from her. Because here comes this lady in the middle of the night saying, we lost all of our USB drives with the votes. Too bad. We were going to certify the other guy.
Two things. There's the audit log and the results. What we uncovered was that 5 of the sticks had the audit log downloaded and not the results. It's a human error. These things can happen. So basically what we need to do is go back to the operations center, and we're going to download out of those 5 machines the results.
When you have somebody who's explaining to you things like this, I have little kids. They try and explain to me things when they're like obvious. I just went like this morning. My son is covered in red paint. They love to paint. Covered in red paint. So what happened? Why is there a mess everywhere? He's covered in red paint. There's red paint everywhere. My 2-year-old. We just need to go back and re-download. I had the wrong download, and don't worry, we're going to get the right votes this time. We promise. It's amazing. This is the response of NBC News while this is happening. Not even NBC News, who is paid like propaganda and an intel agency, effectively, for the federal government, can believe the audacity of this theft. I think we have a clip. That's like this. We can't play the whole 3 minutes, can we? Maybe just put it up for a little bit where you're not going to be able to believe. Like NBC News is just sitting there with their jaws unhinged on the floor going, wait, what now? What? They lost the USBs and now they're just going to declare the guy nobody's ever heard of the winner? Here we go.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's the thing.
Okay. Look at this. This is the most awkward 3 minutes in the history of NBC News.
Let's look at it this way. We're kind of indefinitely waiting for them to get their act together here and get the sticks and bring them back and go on. And we've got folks here who are working real late. And I don't think we want to, keep them here to...
I can't believe this is real. This is real. Alex, were you watching this last night?
And it's 90 minutes of me saying, have you heard of any other athletes running for Congress?
Alex is a night owl. Alex stays up for this kind of stuff. I do not. I have to go to bed early. But yeah, embarrassing, humiliating. My screen real fast. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, look at the faces. Look at the humiliation. Look at the disgust. Look at the defeat. They're like, they did it again. Another late night ballot drop. Okay, now Steve Urkel has won. Look at these polls. Let's bring on Mark Mitchell. Mark Mitchell from Rasmussen. Look at these polls. Hong, average of 3 polls. Hong, 42%. What is the split here? This is Hong by almost 30 points. So she was a 30-point favorite, and she lost. What's the final tally? She lost by like 3,000 votes. 2 a.m. ballot dump in Milwaukee. She would have lost. She would have, of course, lost in a landslide, I think, in November. But she was defeated by 4,000 votes. How convenient. Mark Mitchell, who's been covering this kind of stuff and covering it bravely, talking about election fraud, is one of the experts on it, but then also about what happens next, joining us live right now from Rasmussen. I don't know, dude. Hong got schlonged is going to be a great T-shirt. So what happened last night? Like, why are the pollsters missing so badly here? They also missed with El Sayed. So are these socialists impossible to poll for, or what's the glitch in the system here, Mark?
Well, I think people should have their pattern recognition hats on because I'm starting to see a pattern. But first, we didn't get a chance to talk about this. Formerly of Rasmussen, now founder and head pollster of the Honest Polling Company, the Honest Polls.
Forgive me.
It's new. It's
I know
new.
we just booked, so I apologize. We'll put that up. Yep.
A lot of crazy stuff going on.
Well, our Chiron has it right. I'm just retarded. Sorry. Our Chiron has this all correct. Thank you, Jamie. And thank you, Klein. And thank you, ALX. The entire team has it right. I have it wrong. Common thing. Common occurrence at the company.
It's okay. I did all the polling there, and I'm going to do all the polling here, and there's going to be a straight through line. But yeah, listen, there's a ton of caveats about primaries, and there are a lot of primary misses that have happened in the past, and even not that long ago. But when you see two of these with the same sort of characteristics, not too far apart, especially the one last night was pretty egregious. So it's like, okay, some of these are progressive pollsters. Maybe they have like a selection bias reason to support the Democrat Socialists. But when you see a 20-point miss and then the race is decided on a razor, it's like, oh, it was just 20 points off. That's what happened. It's just off the exact amount. And then not only that, like you said, looking back at Michigan and Al Sayed, he was the favorite by 10 points and he only won by 1. The same kind of things happen there, which is like, oh, he got put over, like sort of because of all these blue districts where we know, I mean, we should not forget that all kinds of electioneering things happen: ballot stuffing, ballot chasing, ballot banking. And so I think it's reasonable to believe that something might have happened when in both of these cases, the person that underperformed was somebody that was challenging the establishment Democrat status quo.
So you believe that a machine was working on behalf of just ensuring that Francesca Hong, who would have had a very tough road, that she wasn't victorious on election night. Do you just think that's the result? That's why we had such a huge miss here.
I think it's reasonable. I mean, listen, like, let's not forget, this is in the 2020 race, like the same kind of battleground states where we were accusing the Democrats of doing this again against an establishment candidate, Donald Trump. The problem is that with the current state of our elections, we'll never know for sure. There's not going to be accountability. The people that would have to hold people accountable are the people that are doing it themselves. And obviously, some of this is the funding mismatch. So, for instance, I'm not sure what Hong's funding situation was, but in Michigan, Stevens was like a 10-to-1 out fundraised Al Sayed. And of course, a lot of it was from AIPAC. And so how did that money get spent? Obviously, some of it was filling boomer brains with, scary ads. Like, obviously, some of it was doing that. But I think it's reasonable to suspect that the same kind of things we've seen in these other elections was also going on behind the scenes. That money getting put to work over a period of early voting to get all these. I mean, in the Michigan, I think they had over 1 million mail-in ballots in that Democrat primary race. Like, it was a big amount. And unfortunately for them, I hate to say it, but it looks like Al Sayed's race was too big to rig. And where have we seen that before?
So you're saying that Francesca Hong had a Democrat machine that was running against her, that they have sort of finely tuned here in Wisconsin. I have this is the great, I love this right here. The Biden. So this is the Biden. This is exactly what happened last night. Can we pop that up? So the Biden versus Trump Wisconsin results, right? And so you're telling me that they just sort of flipped the machine and they were able to make sure that they got their candidate over the finish line.
So listen, I am an election integrity guy. I think elections are cooked. I even had polls where people told me that they were not U.S. citizens, and yet they voted in the 2020 and 2024 elections. So, I mean, we've seen all of this stuff, and I think there's reason to suspect the machines. But I think that a lot of this is just the good old fashioned stuff that they've been doing forever. And how much of it is column A, B, or C, I don't know. But I mean, we've talked about, like, they bust people in from Chicago, like, they stay open late and just keep scanning the same ballot. And like in this particular case, I'm not exactly sure what would
they
do
lost
it.
the USBs. Have you looked into that? Like, what does that mean? Right? What does that mean? We lost all the votes? Like, what is that? What is that?
Chain of custody out the window. Like,
I've seen this one before, Mark. I've seen it before.
It's egregious. It's the same stuff we saw on Fox News on November 3rd, 2020. It's the same thing as putting signs up outside the window. And in that case, what you saw was largely the Democrat and somewhat the Republican establishment say nothing to see here. It's a big lie. And the trend that I found between 2020 and 2024 is that people don't like being gaslit too. So that big lie did not work, that psychological operation. And we got up to the point where 66% of the US likely electorate thought that the outcome of the 2020 election was affected by fraud. And guess what? A lot of those people were actually Democrats too. And so in this particular instance, like what I can say is that democratic socialism is rising within the ranks of the Democrat Party. It is becoming more popular, especially with the under 40 people. Is it because they love socialism? Believe it or not, it really isn't. It's an economic signal because they think that the economy is unfair to them. Corporations are unfair to them. They can't buy houses. And also, that's literally what it is. And, also they don't like the idea of foreign influence, right?
Yes.
And so that creates a pretty tricky situation for the Democrat establishment that I think, like the Republican establishment, has those problems. It likes corporations. It wants to be friendly to foreign governments that will provide fundraising. And the Democrat socialists are running against that stuff. And I think it's just a game of whack-a-mole here. That's what we're seeing.
Horseshoe theory, it's happening in real time, the fourth turning. Things are going to change. They're going to change dramatically into 2028. So what is your advice to Republicans? We've been beating our fists bloody on the table here to say it might not be sexy, but all that matters are gas prices, grocery prices, and can people afford homes? And the reality of that data is that things in the last 20 years, we tracked it back to 2006, that every basic good has gone up by 100%, sometimes 200%. Every single basic good. These are just the normal stuff. This is cereal, eggs, milk. This is not funny numbers. This is the real hard consumer data. A used car, the kind of stuff that you need to get your life started. The price of beef, obviously, the price of bacon, everything is twice as expensive. And so it's a real crisis. To ignore it, I think, is suicide. And so that's of course our stance. Everything, Iran war, Ukraine war, all of it, everything that's not focused on that issue is a distraction and is stealing precious time, in our opinion. Sorry, Mark, just off my soapbox.
You're right.
What do we do in 2028? What happens in 2028?
We talked a lot about this on your show, and especially back in the fall. So I don't think MAGA can look around and say that they weren't warned. I sat in the White House in November and said explicitly to Donald Trump, you are on track to lose the midterms because you forgot why you were elected. And listen, you can do things like Venezuela and you can do things like Iran, but you have to be a wartime president to fight this economic war. And that's very much what it is. To be very clear about what's going on with socialism is that socialism now wins with the under 40 voter, and it's really close with under 50, but it also doesn't get to 50%. And this is one that might blow people's brains up. If you look at the under 40 Trump voter, close to half of them actually say they would vote for a socialist. And not only that, 3/4 of them support pretty super socialist policies like excess wealth confiscation and nationalization of industries. So when I look at these things, and also we can't forget that Trump had a 60% approval rating with these same people who are pretty socialists. And so it's not histrionic to say that socialists put Trump over the finish line in 2024. And now what we have is a circular firing squad that's trying to purify the right into basically a neoconservative, anti-socialist, we hate all Muslims. What we're doing is purification through subtraction and losing this big tent we had because of economic populism and a referendum on a system that doesn't work for these people. So these people think the system is capitalist. At least over a majority of Zoomers say that the system is at least partially a free market economy. And everybody agrees by a strong majority. And so if the system doesn't work for them, they want to pick another system. Do they really want to be socialists? I don't think they want the freedom to go away. I just think they want to be able to live a normal life that their parents had. And we talked about the polling that said that only 35% of people today think today's children will be better off than their parents. To me, that is the signal that Republicans have to focus on. How do you get that number up? And the only way to do it is to show that by voting for the Republican Party, people have a reason to look into the future and say the Republican plan is going to get me to where I want to go. They haven't been able to sell that. And I said that they would lose if they didn't. Economic populism, fix the system, get rid of the oligarchs, flatten wealth equality. And people would say, oh, that's not free market capitalism. Well, I'm sorry, we're going to be socialist then. Like, that's literally just what it's going to be. And like, we have a track record of strong leaders coming in and being pro-worker, pro-progressive taxation, you know, like Teddy Roosevelt going to, like, trust busting and saying that Americans need a square deal. Americans just want a square deal right now, and Republicans still don't have that message.
Everything you said is correct, except for I think that you have the terms wrong. I would just like to argue the nomenclature. Socialists put Trump over the finish line. Like, you go back to Bernie Sanders in 2008, and you look at the rhetoric, and it's Trump rhetoric. It's just America first. It's just like cancel NAFTA, close the borders, focus on the unions, focus on manufacturing. Why don't we build things here anymore? This is just, this is Trump. This is Trump. And like Bernie Sanders, like Rick Santorum wrote this like working class Republican book and tells me the story of like Donald Trump went and just pretty much cribbed the whole thing. He wrote it like with Bernie Sanders in the Senate. They were both senators at the time. And like about how to like reignite the manufacturing base in the country. It's like Bernie Sandersism is like, I don't know, maybe better described as populism, like nationalist populism back in the day before like everything went completely over a cliff. And so that I think I would totally agree with that. Like I would totally agree with that contention.
Yeah. No, I was there in 2015 and 2016 with the original keyboard warriors, and a lot of them were disaffected Bernie bros that were sad that he sold out. So yeah, national economic populism. And you know, like what's great about it is the whole nationalism aspect, where what we have now is the establishment trying, in my opinion, to divide people. They're trying to stir up the the fighting over race, the fighting over MAGA extremism. And people on the right will say, well, we can never collaborate with the left because they all want to kill us. And I would say, well, there is a growing portion of the left that is violent. But the thing that we overlook is that they're more afraid of the right than the right is of the left. They're actually more afraid of political violence and extremism for MAGA people. Why is that? Well, because of the psychological operation of January 6th, because, like, unfortunately, some of Trump's rhetoric, right? And I think like what the establishment might eventually be blindsided by is that maybe these people will bury their hatchets and come together, like you said, and have this horseshoe theory of like, let's just be American and let's fix the economy. And what does that mean? It means very pro-middle class things, not like probably not a capital gains tax cut. Probably not that, like probably something different. And again, do I think the Democrats socialists are like sanguine? No, I don't. Like, I think it's probably a Trojan horse, but that doesn't mean that their voters are that, right? That means there's an opportunity. And people know this. Tucker's going after this crew, and I think he's doing it in the right way, which is like, let's agree to the moral core of this. And I would argue that I don't think there really ever was one for MAGA. I think people projected one onto it. And I think that we're sort of stuck like holding the bag right now, like deportations. The moral core of deportations was you're competing with American workers and you're violating the rule of law. But when you say, well, some of these people work hard, we should keep them around because line must go up, then you like the moral core is line must go up. Well, the youth don't want to hear that because that's like boomer system, late stage capitalism talk. And it's why they're getting screwed and they can't find jobs. So when Tucker goes out there and he's like, we should all come together as Americans and have a shared cultural identity and be fair to people. He's going to get some of these voters that voted for Bernie, then voted for Trump. Now they're voting for Mamdani, and they might vote for a Republican again. But increasingly, we're going to see that because inexorably, every year, the boomer hold on the establishment weakens by a couple million votes, and it's just a matter of time.
I think that there's a cancer. I think the neocons are a cancer on the Republican Party. I think that the Democrat socialists are absolutely a cancer on the Democrat Party, and that's why they threw out all the stops last night in Wisconsin. I do fundamentally believe that they used the systems that they have in order to stop Francesca Hong. That's the only explanation that makes sense to me. Okay, so what is your you briefed Trump on polls? You told him to do these things. What is your assessment of 2028 in conclusion here? Final question. Like, is it going to be AOC? My firm belief, Mark, is that it's AOC. Is that it's going to be AOC. Not that she's going to win, but that she's going to be the nominee. That's what I fundamentally believe. How do Republicans like reignite, reestablish, and like combat that? That's what I think is going to happen. I think it's going to be AOC.
Well, I think it's going to be the most exciting thing to see because it's very unpredictable. And I'm the hardest thing to predict is what the Democrat person is going to be, because at the end of the day, there's going to be a deal made behind the scenes probably, and whoever gets selected is going to be like functionally indistinguishable from any of the other candidates. Because even I think at this point, Bernie's probably a creature of the same machine. Unless some outsider comes out of nowhere. Now, let's just talk 26 quick. I mean, the polling's not good. It's pretty likely going to be a Dem pickup of the House. You could say, well, maybe it'll be razor thin in the Senate. And it's like, did the Republicans even have the Senate to begin with? I think a case could be made, like, probably no. But at the end of the day, there are things that could happen between now and then, and maybe things will get positive. But the number of things that could be negative, I think, outnumber the ones that could be positive. So I just wanted to set that as like where we're starting from. And that is like likely for the next 2 years, it's going to be Democrat show trials that hinder the Trump legislative agenda and pick apart his administration. I think that really is coming. I've heard a lot of things. I know some of the things they're going to go after. And let's just be fair. Like, I don't think the Trump administration has done a good job like helping themselves in this situation. So that means, in my opinion, that you're going to see a loss of political capital for MAGA. And you're going to see basically a scuffle for the future of a right-wing movement. And right now, the neocons are doing the best job asserting themselves online. Like, well, will that be effective? Like, probably not. I think it's just pissing everybody off. But then you're going to see maybe an outsider, maybe an insider come together and say, well, like, we need a new thing to carry forward. And it needs to be more specific than what MAGA was, which was at the time just Trump's judgment. And it was good for most of the time, right? When we started fighting people about affordability, I think we can argue that's when it started to go south, right? But it could be a JD Vance. The establishment, I think, very much wants Rubio in there. Trump recently came out and said that he was going to support Vance. That's an interesting sign because he is an economic populist. He's former military. He's got that nationalistic aspect. I think he could do well with this kind of platform. And he's a millennial, and he speaks to these people in a way that the boomers do not. So he can relate to these folks. Problem is, I don't think he's going to have much in the way of coattails. And the establishment Republican Party doesn't want him there at all. So I think it might get ugly. And then what you have, if that isn't going to go well, is you're going to have things like what Tucker's doing, where an outsider might come in and try to start a third party. That's very tough to do. And they're going to get like shut out at the state level because they don't have all this infrastructure the establishment Republican Party does. But it could be an executive branch spoiler, which means that whoever that person is takes the Republican establishment and rubs their nose in their own mess. That would be essentially what's going on there, to make them acknowledge why they failed and why they're losing now, so that AOC can come in and do whatever she's going to do. Maybe she comes in and she's not insane. Maybe, I don't know, but it's very likely at this point, and I think the betting markets would agree that there's probably going to be a Democrat winner in 2028, just because everybody's pretty mad right now. And I don't see any case to be made that that's going to reverse in a major way.
Well, the honest pollster giving his honest take. We have a no blackpilling rule, Mark. We have a no blackpilling rule.
I'm optimistic.
We have no black. I'm going to make you sign a waiver. This is no blackpilling.
What's the black pill? It's like, okay, if our politics moves downstream.
I think that if I were to go with my gut, and I'm very close with JD's team and with what I think is going to be like the energy, I think that JD is going to be able to chart after the midterms, a very Trump-esque 2020 run, which if you were to delete COVID, if you could just rewind your mind back to the early winter of 2020 before COVID, when none of that had happened, where Donald Trump was doing Indy 500 laps, right? And the economy was roaring and Democrat impeachments had failed. And sometimes the greatest key to defeating your enemy is a small victory where they get overconfident and then overplay their hand horribly. And that happened in 2018. I think it's going to happen again. I think that we're going to see that super cycle again. Democrats are going to play their hand. It's going to be nasty. It's going to be very nasty. They're going to maybe win the midterms. Obviously, the polls don't look great, but then I think they're going to go batshit crazy. And I think the American people are going to they're going to give the next heir to MAGA, the next heir to America First, a great platform to run on. And I think JD has really great instincts. I would love to see him run with Marco. And then AOC being named and selected as the candidate, I think you're going to run into a Kamala-esque nightmare with that. That's not me being a sweet summer child. She's very scary, very scary. And I think it's going to be her just because Bernie Sanders has already made his heir apparent an appointment. And the Democrat Party is going to do a deal where they're going to put AOC up. They're going to agree to run her as the moderate. You can already see her moderating. Woke 1.0 was crazy. So they're going to try and pit them together. But I personally believe that it's not going to be a particularly close race in 2028. But we'll see. I don't know.
We polled this. JD Vance beat AOC last summer, and Rich Barris ran it not that long ago, and he lost by a tiny margin, but it's so far out. I think you're right. We're trying to project how crazy Democrats will be. And I think that a lot of this is like, how successful is JD going to be as a builder? And I think there's a case to be made he will be, because he came from a corporate, startup background, and he has a lot of ties to people that can make things happen. I think a lot goes into how this thing's structured. Where are the new funding sources coming from? How are we going to get a better crack at breaking through the stranglehold that grifters have on the Republican donor bucks allocation system? Like, these are all very important things, and they got to get hot, because these are the things that are preventing MAGA from getting what MAGA wants. And like you said, I think JD is a pretty good heir apparent, since he's actually a populist.
And that's what I believe. I believe it'll be it'll be such a fascinating election. 2028 is going to be just wild, because it will be a relatively pure distillation of left-wing populism versus right-wing populism, with an AOC versus a JD. And that's where all my money's on. Not a big betting guy, but that's where all my money's on, is that's going to be like the alignment. And we're going to get this full conversation. You can already see it crystallizing right now. And we're only 3 months away from the midterms, and then everyone's going to announce, So it's like, we're in the super cycle. Mark, we appreciate it. Thank you. Please come back, and I'll get your Chiron and company correct. The honest poll. Here we go. Fiercely independent, just delivering the truth from that Jersey Shore polling location. Thank you. Thank you, Mark. Godspeed.
Great to be here. Thanks, Benny.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have Scott Walker, former governor of Wisconsin, and Ron Johnson locked in. We're testing with both of them, and I'm just going to let my team ALX is going to be able to make the final call here. So speaking of a final call your team or your mom or your friends on your Patriot mobile device. Make the call. We have those two Patriots locked in and lined up. Make the call on a Patriot mobile device, because they are the only Christian conservative wireless provider. They're the only wireless provider that's going to be for your constitutional rights. Pro-life. It's going to be pro-2A. It's going to be pro-strong borders. And pro-putting Americans in jobs instead of infinity H-1Bs or illegals. Ladies and gentlemen, they're 100% U.S.-based customer support team that speaks English. We'll be able to get you switched over in minutes, and you can support them by switching to Patriot Mobile today, the backbone of our company. Don't go anywhere without their mobile hotspot. PatriotMobile.com/Benny. Call 972-PATRIOT. Use a promo code Benny for a free month of service. PatriotMobile.com/Benny. 972-PATRIOT to make the switch today. All right. Checking in with my team. Who do we want to go to for next? No? Okay. Waiting on a test. You know how it goes. Unlike a lot of other shows, we're live. We're actually live. And sometimes these kind of things happen. So we have the interesting news out of the state of Wisconsin and the state of Minnesota, which is quite fascinating. My screen, please, if you don't mind. Minnesota decided to put up for U.S. Senate the Bernie Sanders-backed candidate, Peggy Flanagan, who had very happily flaunted a hijab.
Assalamu alaikum. My name's Peggy Flanagan. Assalamu alaikum.
What was that? What is that?
Assalamu alaikum. My name's Peggy Flanagan.
Oh, no. So here we go. Welcome to Minnesota, everyone. So I'm not trying to discount AOC. ALX, just hit me up directly. I know that we're trying to test right now. We're trying to fix a couple, two different shots right now. So ALX, just hit me up whenever we know when we're ready to roll. I appreciate our team for being fast and on the spot and solving these technical issues. But here it is. This is your Senate candidate in Minnesota. Oh, man. They did soften up the Midwest, didn't they? They knew that in the Midwest, the margins were razor thin, that these were homogenous, happy American communities from Norse countries. You know, a lot of people there were from these countries that are from Sweden and Norway. They were incredibly pliable. You could guilt them, a lot of Christian guilt, a lot of toxic empathy in those cultures. And they are crisp and clean and functional and safe cultures, very peaceful people, ripe for conquest. All right, look at this, and that's exactly what's happened here. Ripe for look at how she looks at her. Look at this. Oh man, look at how they're looking at her. Ugh. So she's going to be the next senator from Minnesota. I mean, I guess we'll see, right? I'm not counting out the Republican, but Minnesota's got a system as well. So we have a big problem in those Great Lakes states, Minnesota and Wisconsin last night. Very interesting results. Again, results that caused NBC News to legitimately gasp. Can we do show the rest of this? We only showed you
interesting.
You want to talk about a technical issue?
Intense.
We only showed you a minute of this 3-minute clip that is being described as the most awkward 3 minutes in the history of television, when NBC News has to grapple with the fact that the election results in Wisconsin are being actively stolen in real time on behalf of Steve Urkel against the North Korean communist. It's too good.
Just my way of saying, I'm just trying to say the audience here, so I'm not abruptly ending on them, just why we're doing this, because the audience has been with us for 4-6 hours in some cases for this moment that didn't happen, and so folks, I think we are gonna wrap it here for the reasons we're saying here. Just, but I want you to know I hate, doing this to you, because it's
do you really?
You've been. I know you're here for results, and we've come to the point where it's like one thing away. I hope you understand that we just, we gotta let everyone here has gotta. Has been here for a long time, and so I'm just trying to.
Oh man, it's so hard to watch.
Okay. Oh,
This is the real broadcast. Oh man. Okay.
So this is okay. Okay, so folks, here's what's happening.
I can't actually take
Never
it.
go full retard.
I can't take it anymore. I can't take it anymore. Let's go to Scott Walker. Please, let's do a palate cleanser here with Scott Walker, who is the president of the Young America's Foundation, also the former governor of Wisconsin. And I'm sure I can see here is laughing his tail off as libs try to grapple with what just happened in the state. Let's get some expert opinions from the last Republican governor of the state. Let's go. Am I remembering that correctly? The last Republican governor of the state of Wisconsin?
Yeah, sadly so. In fact, I'm the only Republican elected governor of Wisconsin this century. I hope
Goodness.
that'll change this November.
Yes. Okay. So obviously Tom Tiffany doing I think he's running a great campaign. He's Wisconsin as they come. We thought that he'd be running up against a North Korean communist, but who knows? What happened, Scott? What happened last night?
Two things: implosion and establishment. So the implosion was Francesca Hong, who, like AOC and others, has been spewing off on social media for years. Didn't realize it would come back to her. Comes from a really radical district within an even more radical city, Madison, but never anyone challenged her. So she starts getting cocky, going about 2 weeks ago on Fox and other places, and suddenly they start looking at her social media feed and she melts down. Remember, she's never run before other than the state assembly, unlike Flanagan in Minnesota and unfortunately the Democrat winner in Michigan. Those two had run before, so they were a little bit more battle tested. So she implodes. I think a lot of voters started to say, oh, I don't know. As much as they liked her liberal, crazy policies, they didn't like her probably winning. And then the establishment. Tony Evers, the current Democrat governor, firmly got behind the last second. David Crowley poured tens of millions of dollars into that race. And in the end, probably most importantly, went around the state saying Francisco Hong can't win. And I think the primary voters, particularly older ones, that had an impact.
Do you think that's going to have an impact in November? Because, you could also argue sort of a horseshoe theory here that if you reduce the Bernie style vote, right, the energetic young socialist, that they might not show up for the more establishment candidate. And so now they're in a tough position here because it is a motivating event to have, the young communist on there.
Well, I expect it's perplexing because even some in the media today are calling David Crowley a moderate. He's not a moderate. He's just not a socialist. But he's a tax and spend liberal. He's a county executive. It's the highest tax burden in the state, highest sales tax, raised property taxes. He comes from a place like Milwaukee that has some of the worst schools in the nation. That's pretty compelling. And then on top of that, he was handpicked. But I think he'll do. Remember when they pushed Democratic Socialist Bernie Sanders out in favor of Joe Biden back in 2020, he basically outsourced his campaign to Bernie and AOC. So I would expect you'll see more of that from Crowley to kind of appease the younger, more radical primary voters to say, oh, no, we're gonna do all these things. We're gonna adopt that Democratic Socialist agenda just without the social media blunders along the way. Tom Tiffany, in contrast, I think needs to point out, hey, this stuff doesn't work. It's failing as we speak in Venezuela. He can talk about lowering property taxes, getting government out of the way to make home prices more affordable, fixing our failed schools. He's got a good contrast, but it won't be easy.
So what is it that Republicans can do to actually solve the issues that matter to voters? Because whatever you might think about the war in Iran, the vast majority of American voters, you go to poll any beach or any college town, they're not going to know what an Ayatollah is. They're not going to know what Bandar Abbas is. They're not going to be able to tell you anything other than the price of gasoline at the filling station down the street, the cost of groceries, the cost to buy a home for a young person. This is critical. And if we can't solve and focus on these issues, we're just never going to win. And so that's what America First actually is. And, I'd really love to move every politician back to speaking about those core issues. What does Tom Tiffany have to do in Wisconsin?
Yeah, the good news is because he didn't have a real primary, he's been talking about this really since the April spring election here, and that's really good. He's been running a general election campaign. Just the other day, for example, former Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin was in town with them, And he laid out a plan in front of a bunch of new homes being built about how to cut almost $90,000 out of the purchase of a new home by getting government out of the way, not doing what the left wants, which is more government spending, which we know only makes things worse, but by cutting the permitting fees, by cutting the red tape, by doing things that gets government out of the way, making a free market solution. Because the reality is, you know this, whether it's the work we do at Young America's Foundation, Turning Point, College Republicans, any of us who are working on campus know there's a real concern not only for current college students, but for recent graduates about the cost to enter into the American dream, to purchase a home, to get married, get a job, have children. Those things for a lot of young people, not just crazy ones, are real concerns now. And conservatives like Tiffany and others need to make the case that they understand it. The solution just isn't more democratic socialism, because we know that fails. It's really getting them back in charge again.
How did you prevent this from happening when you ran for governor of Wisconsin? This is Donald Trump results, but I could also show you the Ed Hovde results. And this is the classic Wisconsin 2 a.m. ballot dump that takes the trend lines and reduces the delta and then flips the delta on behalf of the Democrat. It always happens, again, at 2 a.m. It always happens in Milwaukee, and it always happens, in the dark of night. And it happened last night, we have no USB sticks, right? Everybody knows these charts are insane, and they're enraging, honestly. How did you prevent this from happening to you? How do Republicans prevent this from happening in November in Wisconsin?
You got to make it too big to rig, as President Trump would say. We used to say, before he said that, we had to win by 3 to 5 points to account for the problems in Milwaukee, Madison, and some of the other cities out there. So we won by bigger margins in each of the 3 elections we won here in the state of Wisconsin. So Tom Tiffany has really just got to focus on that. The other part is I hope Harmeet Dillon and others from the Department of Justice look closely, not only here, Michigan, other key states around the country, to make sure they look in advance to enforce the laws of those states, to make sure they're doing the things to be consistent, because it's almost impossible after the fact. So you really got to clamp down on the laws, just like our local prosecutors got to do the same.
So when you hear, let's say you were governor right now, and this election apparatchik comes up to the podium in Milwaukee. We played the clip here in the last 40 minutes, and she's like, we just lost 5 USB thumb drives, and it had all the wrong data. And so we can't really tally the election, and we're just going to go back and redo the thumb drives. And everyone's like so fatigued and so exhausted about this, and saying like, there's no way this is on the up and up. What would you do as governor? What does that say to you when they're talking about corrupted data on thumb drives and they just got to go kick the machines a few times? What does that say to you?
Completely unacceptable. I mean, think back 26 years ago when the state of Florida had all those problems, hanging chads, all the nonsense. We don't hear about that ever more. Why? Because they fixed their system. They understood that if they let it continue, they'd be the laughingstock of the nation. You see it in Milwaukee, you see it in Maricopa County, you see it in other places around the country. We've got to crack down, and it's not just in the moments after an election. It's got to be in advance, bring in lawyers, force them to uphold the law, take strict action. When I signed the photo ID laws, when we did other things to change voter integrity, we thought that would be enough, but they're constantly moving the needle. They're constantly pushing things along the way, and it's just completely unacceptable.
So can you give me just a quick overview of what the election laws are in Wisconsin? Because this is going to be a race that we're going to watch really closely. Obviously, we want Tom Tiffany to win. We're a little worried about Wisconsin. Francesca Hong, I think, was going to be an infinitely more beatable candidate.
Right.
Do they still have the drop boxes? Do they still have the unmanned drop boxes? I know there were big lawsuits about that. What is the current state of play in Wisconsin?
Well, that's the frustrating part. It's been going back and forth, and it's a good reminder for all of us, not just here in Wisconsin, but across the country, that races other than president matter. For the last several cycles, really radical, politicized left-wing judicial candidates have won in the state Supreme Court. So they've messed with a lot of the laws that we had about even things as simple as purging the voter rolls to make sure, when I was in, it was like, if you're not there after a certain period of time, they purge the rolls. If you want to come back, register, somehow you're mistaken. You can do it even up to the day of the election on same day voter registration. But we shouldn't have voters out there who've been gone or dead or moved on from somewhere else sitting on the ballot or sitting on the polling list. That's the real frustration. Thankfully, when I went to vote yesterday at my polling site, they still have voter ID. We're still very concerned about the state Supreme Court, and they're politicizing that, but that's intact. But we've gone way beyond that. We need, in the end, like most Americans, I think we should vote on the day of the election. We should not be using machines, use paper ballots, but we don't have that currently. So it goes back to too big to rig. We've got to have massive turnout and win by enough of a margin that this late night data drop in Milwaukee or elsewhere can't determine the election.
Right. That's exactly right. Final question for you as president of YAF. What is YAF going to do to combat or to move the administration in order to talk about affordability for young people is obviously the single most important issue. I know that it is, of course, tied to the administration's efforts on immigration. Obviously, it's tied to a lot of different efforts, but ultimately getting the prices down at the gas, getting prices down for groceries, getting prices down for used cars, getting prices down for homes, accessibility to the American dream will be the razor's edge that these elections are decided on. I view a populist left movement and a populist right movement, and they're going to run on the same issues. Yeah. It's going to be the same battle, and they're going after it. And we've seen it clearly for years. I don't know why people don't take it seriously, but it is what's going to happen. And so how do we win in 28?
No, you're exactly right. Some people are shocked when we say this, but there are some of the people voting for Democratic Socialists all across the country who voted for Donald Trump just 2 years ago because they were fed up with the system. They were fed up feeling like everything was stacked against them, particularly younger people who are more leaners. They're not locked in the one party or the other. They may lean left, but they're certainly in play. And I think conservatives, candidates like Tiffany and others, have to have clear, concise messaging about what they're going to do to help lower costs, again, not through more government and other means. But I hope the president and others in the administration realize even just him spending more time talking about this. I know he cares about it. I know he cares about these issues, but part of the help could be just him talking about, hey, I know the market's better, indicators are in the right spot, but we want to make sure that every American, hardworking, particularly young person who wants to get a job, who wants to get married, who wants to start a family, and wants to live their piece of the American dream with their little home that they can start out with, that they get a shot at doing that. Just talking about that, I think, would help candidates all across the country.
Yeah, that's right. Just start talking about it. I know it's not sexy, it's not sexy to say we brought gas and, gas went down by 10 cents or like the delta on the groceries went down, on a cart for $3. But like that is literally the thing that wins. It's the thing that wins. Mothers, parents, families. It's like it.
And Donald Trump's right. In his first term, home, mortgage rates were so low. I looked at the difference between his first term, end of his first term, and the end of Biden's term. Two of my kids, son and daughter-in-law, bought a home. They paid almost $1,000 more under Biden than they would have under Trump's first term. Oof. He's right to contrast that, but elections, as you know, are always about the future. So it's not just how good things were when Trump was here versus Biden. It's about what's going to happen next, and that's where he could use his help, saying it's going to get better, and here's our plan.
Right. That's exactly right. The power and the weight of leadership today, and we won't be able to run away from it if things are going worse. It's on us. So thank you, Governor. Deeply appreciate it. We'll be checking back in up until the election. Wisconsin, a soft place in my heart. My parents lived in Wausau for a while, and it's just lovely. It's just lovely there. It's just lovely. It's just beautiful. It's just a beautiful state. I love Wisconsin. Godspeed, Governor. Thank you. And support YAF and support the work that the governor's doing. He's got 300,000 subscribers right here on X. You should follow him. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you, Benny.
Straight to Senator Ron Johnson. You know Senator Ron Johnson. He's the man, and he just dropped the bombshell of all bombshells less than 48 hours ago on Dr. Fauci's phone. Will this be what finally cracks the case to get Republican AGs over the line to prosecute Fauci? Joining us live now, Senator Ron Johnson. Senator, thank you for being back on the program. Perhaps can we just
I cannot hear Benny.
Oh, I'm sorry. Here we go. Sorry, team. Here we are. I apologize. We've been having this technical issue. Man, do we need to change We need to change our streaming company. I'm not sure. We use a particular software to stream today, and we've had some major glitches, and so we apologize to the audience. It's just, is what it is. Sitting there yapping about how bad it looks on NBC News when they don't know what they're doing. We gotta get our audio together. It's very strange. It's like does not normally happen. We use StreamYard. It's a specific software to stream our show under, and normally it's very, very normally it's very good. Okay, well, maybe today is the day that we do the switch. I've had enough. I'm very frustrated. I'm sorry about that. It's not fair to our guests either, to keep our guests sitting there waiting as we solve a technical problem that has nothing to do with us. But anyway, and it has nothing to do with you. We're thankful for you. We appreciate it. And we appreciate our guest time. We always want to respect our guest time. Senator Ron Johnson, again, looks like the team is trying to get him back in. So before I jump into another block here, let's just see if we can pop the governor back on. We do have a stack of stuff here though that we can chat through. AOC broke up. AOC broke up with her boyfriend last night. And do we have Zach Lawn as well? Zach's running for governor of Iowa. And so I don't know if we have him yet or set in the green room. But why don't we just jump in and we'll just start chit-chatting about what's about to happen with AOC. So everything in the column of who's going to be next for the Democrat Party is aligning with AOC. AOC is going to be the peace candidate that's going to bring the establishment side of the Democrats and the radical side of the Democrats together. And they're going to unite behind her. And unlike Bernie Sanders, who didn't really have any of the intersectional politics, box checks, right? He was an old, dirty, lazy Marxist, white as the pure driven snow from the whitest state in America, Vermont. And he didn't have any of the glitter, right, of intersectionality, and AOC has it in spades. Even though she's from a very leafy and very rich suburb of New York, leafy Yorktown Heights, well north of the Bronx, actually 2 hours north of the Bronx. It doesn't matter. AOC will be the inheritor. She's already the heir apparent. She's already been given the power of Bernie's movement. Bernie Sanders will storm the country with AOC. They've already done this. They've filled stadiums. And just a reminder that they did this before. Bernie Sanders got nearly 50% of the primary vote in 2016 against Hillary Clinton when Barack Obama was president. So, ignore them and laugh at them at your own peril. I'm just here to warn about the sign of things to come. And now there's a far more developed socialist base that's as energized as they've ever been. And they are going to back AOC, and AOC is going to have probably get some establishment, VP candidate that would run with her. Maybe it'll be the all-female ticket. Maybe it'll be AOC Kamala Harris. I don't know. But it's that's what's going to happen. Anyway, AOC is making these moves. She's freezing her eggs, which is, of course, a signal to her young girl boss, fembot, cat lady base, right, famously. And she broke up with her deadbeat boyfriend yesterday, apparently. So another girl boss sign in the stars that it's going to be AOC. This is our contention. Someone's going to have to really come up with a good argument and convince me otherwise. Maybe Ron Johnson has one. Senator Johnson is back. Can you hear me, Senator?
I can, Benny. How are you doing?
Okay. I apologize for that. I hate those technical difficulties. I'm so sorry about that. Senator, we have a huge question about what happened last night in Wisconsin. What's going on with the missing thumb drives? What's going on in Milwaukee? What the hell happens in Milwaukee every time the Democrats need or want something? There's always some massive glitch in that city. I'd love to ask that question and then pivot to Fauci. If you don't mind, though, what's your takeaway from the election last night?
So again, we have moved to more and more absentee ballots. That was a massive effort on the part of Democrats during COVID. The Baker Carter Commission said absentee ballots, mail-in voting was probably the area most prone to fraud. But that's exactly what the Democrats want. And in Milwaukee in particular, they have what they call central count, So rather than have each precinct tally their absentee ballots, which would make it a much more manageable process, they collect all those absentee ballots, they send them to a central counting station. It takes them hours and hours and hours to count those things. Now against Milwaukee, you're going to get a very heavy Democrat turnout and Democrat vote for those absentee ballots. They end up dumping those things late at night or sometimes in the middle of the morning. It looks suspicious. It may be suspicious. There may be fraud occurring. There's just not enough control over the process. So again, regardless, it looks bad. And what Wisconsin Election Commission ought to do is figure out every possible way to return confidence into our election system. And of course, with Democrats voting against every election integrity measure that's put before them because they want to make it easy to cheat, we're not restoring that confidence in our election system.
So what is your take politically? You've been able to survive Democrat challengers. They always think they're going to be able to steal your Senate seat and you're victorious every single time. I think maybe they're just getting tired of trying. So you obviously have Wisconsin figured out, but you know the landscape as good as anybody. Would it have been better to have Francesca Hong? Is this a blessing in disguise? What's your take on the state of the race?
Oh, I think David Crowley is going to be much more difficult challenger to beat. I think Francesca Hong would have been easier. But again, Wisconsin's a very evenly divided state in the big elections in presidential years. You know, in non-presidential years, we've been being blown out. On these Supreme Court races, these Supreme Court candidates are winning by a couple 100,000 votes. So it looks more like a blue state when it's not a big general election. And last night is a prime example of that. Now, we didn't really have a contested primary for governor, but Republicans, about 500,000 Republicans turned out to vote. 700,000 Democrats turned out to vote and narrowly elected David Crowley as their primary candidate. So no, it'll be a tougher race for Tom Tiffany. And unless President Trump can energize his voters, people that wouldn't necessarily come out for regular Republicans only came out for Donald Trump, unless he can energize those people across the country, particularly in swing states like Michigan, like Wisconsin, we may be looking at a very bad night here in November.
It's incredibly frustrating because there's been so much good to actually run on, but I think there's been a lot of distractions. And one of the good things is your work in actually putting the screws to Dr. Fauci, and you released these texts showing that Dr. Fauci was totally dismissive at best or complicit at worst in the horrific spikes with miscarriages, the COVID-19 vaccine. This changed the dynamic everywhere, and my entire timeline is filled with people that had miscarriages and believe it was due to the vaccine being forced on them through the violence of the federal government. The federal government used its monopoly on violence to force this vaccine on all of us, and it might have really harmed babies. I mean, we know that it did. Your take on this, I think this was a breaking point, I think, for a lot of people.
Well, the good news is because it was Anthony Fauci, admitting in these texts that there was a theoretical reason why you might have miscarriages. I had never heard, as close as I followed this, I had never heard that you had more cytokine storm after the second dose. News to me. I mean, somebody who's really been watching this. It certainly was news to me that Anthony Fauci was aware of that and thought that could cause that, and the fever could cause miscarriages, particularly in the first trimester. But the good news here is now this is actually being covered as news. A far more egregious example of the corruption is that about a month later, and you've covered this, but mainstream media, legacy newspapers, major broadcast stations have not covered my report that showed that Peter Marks, the head of the FDA division that approves vaccines and is supposed to surveil safety, on March 1st, a little more than a month after Anthony Fauci made that expressed that concern about miscarriages, was shown that it was warned that his algorithm is going to hide safety signals. 26 days later, they were shown dozens of safety signals, including sudden cardiac death, pulmonary infarction, which Anthony Fauci suffered from in June of 2021, different types of strokes. Not one major news outlet has covered that as news. I've been on shows like this, but that's way more egregious than what Anthony Fauci was talking about within a month, going, hey, we maybe ought to be a little careful with pregnancy. Now, what's egregious about that is he kept that to himself as well. Yeah. I mean, I've seen people nitpick over this. What is the true rate of miscarriages? Well, he's just being a scientist. He's throwing out a theory, he's hypothesizing. Fine. But he should have expressed that concern. Instead, what he was doing, and the one that galls me the most, he goes, there were no red flags. That's a red flag. Cytokine storm is a red. I'd like to see with a study. I've never seen that. Where did he get that from? He didn't share that with the American public. And of course, Peter Marks and all these people in the CDC, Tom Shimokuro, they ignored them all. They had their analytics. They ignored, those PRRs, those are junk. It's all about empirical Bayesian analysis. Then they didn't even look at those things. So again, Anthony Fauci, Peter Marks, Tom Shimokuro, all these people who were supposed to be surveilling for safety signals with the experimental gene therapy injections, they turned a complete blind eye to this. Where they saw them, they denied them. They said, we can't tell the American public this. It'll create vaccine hesitancy. They won't get the injection. Well, that's exactly why you have informed consent, so that people can take a look and go, what's my risk of COVID? If I'm a young person, virtually zero. Benny, are you aware of the fact that the flu vaccine has a 2.6% serious adverse event rate? That's just a normal flu vaccine. So now they've approved an mRNA version, and they're saying, well, it's fine because it only has a 2.7% serious adverse event rate. Now, let me put that in context. You know what a serious adverse event is? It's death. It's a condition that could cause immediate death. It's a permanent disability. It's a birth defect. That's what a serious adverse event is. 2.7%. I mean, if you have a virtually 0% chance of being harmed like a young person with COVID, are you, or the flu, are you going to sign up for something that you almost have a 3% chance of having death, a condition that could cause serious death, permanent disability, or birth defect? We're not given that information because they rely on what they call relative risk ratios. I mean, this is what you heard. Oh, the COVID injection, it's 95% effective. What that means, if you have a 1% chance of death, that knocks it down to 0.1%. Okay, again, that's pretty significant. But again, the absolute relative risk on that, for example, VSafe showed 8% of people who got the shot had to seek medical care. 25% lost time at work or couldn't carry out their daily schedule. We've seen what, VAERS was just deluged with these adverse events. People died. People were permanently disabled. 24% of Americans believe that they know somebody who died of the injection. So again, Anthony Fauci is hiding behind that. 95% effective. They're not talking about, but you, particularly a young person, you have virtually no risk from COVID. It's like, you get a cold. Hey, we get colds. We don't like them. We're miserable for a few days, but we recover. Most Americans recovered from COVID. I don't know how many people have been damaged by the injection. I don't know what kind of turbo cancers. I don't know what kind of lingering problems there are in terms of undetected myocarditis. I don't know because they didn't look at it. They didn't really study it. They didn't do autopsies. What about all the clotting? These mysterious long white clots that embalmers and coroners were seeing. Again, it's all been suppressed. Nobody, the legacy media that never covered this, the people like Fauci, Peter Marks, Tom Shimokuro, they're just denying that reality. And fortunately, again, I'll wrap up on this. Fortunately, we found that text that reveals that Fauci at least expressed concern about miscarriages and told no one. That is just the tip of the iceberg. That's actually a minor revelation compared to what I revealed in my, about Peter Marks and the rest of the crew, the henchmen in CDC and FDA.
So there's going to be more huge revelations out of this cell phone that you have from Dr. Fauci.
Probably, we've downloaded it. It's searchable. 34,000 texts, 522 voicemails. What's odd about it, Benny, is there are only 3 contacts in his context list. Every other text has a phone number attached. Now, you text, you immediately put a context so you know who that text is from. So it indicates to me that Anthony Fauci or somebody deleted his contact list. So now we've got to trace and find out who are those phone numbers to. It's not the easiest task. So again, this is going to take some time. I want to be very careful. I don't want to release people's personal information. Let's face it, Fauci was texting everybody. I'm interested in those texts that impact public policy, which is why I wasn't expecting to release things right away, but when I saw that he was concerned about miscarriages, I thought I had to get that text out immediately because it impacted public health. It impacted informed consent. If I'm a woman who's considering becoming pregnant or I am pregnant, I want to know that at least that Anthony Fauci was concerned about the mRNA injection. And maybe I ought to consider my own risk here.
So he deleted his contact list.
It appears that way. I don't prove it, but I mean,
nobody would ever have a phone without contact saved, Senator.
Precisely.
In all due respect.
I know. So no, but it's sure suspicious, isn't it? So yeah, I believe somebody deleted that contact list. But again, we'll get the phone numbers. I mean, but it's just going to take more time.
Yeah. Okay. Do you believe that he deleted any other messages?
Oh, I think throughout CDC. I mentioned Tom Shimbukuro. So he's the head of safety surveillance for CDC. On the advice of the general counsel of HHS, he deleted emails. Now that's from his device. And we've since learned that not only, because we tried to recover those, not only were those emails deleted from his devices, they were deleted from the HHS server. Now, I don't think Tom Shimbukuro probably had the technical expertise or the ability to get into the server and delete those emails. That's why it's almost impossible to delete emails unless you're the administrator of the computer system. So there's more corruption. It's deeper than what we think. But we saw David Morin's. He had a FOIA. He showed him how to delete emails. I bet they did. I bet they did.
Final question for you on this, and I just cannot thank you enough for your work here. The state attorney generals, now we have some breaking news. Yesterday, James Uffmeyer was on the show, and he said, listen, I am working with other state attorney generals right now, and we're all working together on this Dr. Fauci issue to see what would be the best avenue to move forward. What is your advice to them? Have you met with other state attorney generals? Have you given your information and data over to other state attorney generals? And of course, the landscape here goes like this. Dr. Fauci is not pardoned for state crimes, right? So states can, of course, bring prosecutions, and his federal pardon does not protect him.
Now, I've met with the Florida Attorney General. I know Tommy Tuberville will probably become the next governor of Alabama. He wants to pursue this. So there's still legal jeopardy there from the standpoint of Fauci. There's no doubt about it. But understand, I'm happy to concentrate on Fauci because finally these warning signals made news. But there are so many more people that are complicit in this, that are culpable, that I think, again, hid things from the American public and resulted in death and permanent disability. So there's a much larger group of people inside these agencies that need to be held accountable. It's not just Anthony Fauci, and those people do not have pardons. Now, they have a great deal of immunity. It's almost impossible to sue the federal government. It's difficult to sue or take action against the agents of the federal government. But again, where there is fraud, I don't know, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a prosecutor. What my job is to expose the truth, and it's been like pulling teeth to get this information. But now we finally have these devices. We're going to try and attempt to get more devices. We should have had Fauci's phone over a year and a half ago. We should have had his diary a lot sooner. We should have had all these documents sooner. Bobby Kennedy is absolutely committed to radical transparency. You have people in these agencies who are probably complicit, probably corrupt, doing everything they can to frustrate his efforts at providing this information to folks like me and Senator Paul and the American public.
And DOJ's already gone after his top deputy, right, for deleting emails. So it's like, it's clearly a criminal enterprise. And you've been exposing it, and we're like, just incredible, just thankful. It's the worst crime against humanity that happened in my lifetime or anybody living today. And so we're thankful for you, Senator. Godspeed. Follow the senator right here, and obviously follow along for more bombshell revelations from Dr. Fauci's thousands and thousands and thousands of texts, where seemingly he's tried to tried to delete the evidence, but Ron Johnson's got it. Godspeed, Senator.
Have a great day.
I do live in Florida now. This was a COVID decision. I wanted to go to maybe the safest and most friendly state that was fighting back. But I'm from Iowa. I'm from Cedar Rapids, Iowa, a suburb of Cedar Rapids, Iowa, a place called Shoeyville, 700 people that live in my hometown. One gas station that was also the VHS rental store, the pizza shop, and the donut shop. And I remember it fondly. I love Iowa for that exact reason. We're very happy to have the future governor of Iowa, the Republican, Zach Lawn, who is running for governor of Iowa and has some very strong words on what will happen for COVID accountability in my home state, or let's just call it the state that raised me. And so welcome to the program, Zach Lawn, ladies and gentlemen. Zach, thanks for being on. It's an honor to have you.
Benny, we're going to get you back to Iowa. I'm telling you that. That's why I'm running. Get our kids back.
You ever been to Shoeyville? Man, it's great
I had
stuff.
one of my very first events in Shoeyville at a bar.
No
it was quite late at night too, but it was I live in just outside of Cedar Rapids in Belle Plaine.
Oh, great. Okay, fantastic. I went to Solon for a few years and then graduated Prairie High School. So
yeah,
it's like it's God's country. And it was a wonderful place to be raised, and I love it, and it will always be in my heart. And I want to get back, and I would love to go back. Any campaign stop or rally or whatever, I'd love to go back, because Iowa is a state that the left is trying to do what they're doing. The entire show has been on what the hell happened in Wisconsin, Illinois, Minnesota. The left has softened up these states and are trying to take them over, and are doing so with extremists, and it's been really bad. And you're standing against that in the state of Iowa. They'd love to come and do the same thing in Iowa, correct?
Yeah. Well, first off, yes. And the state fair is coming up, so that's what you need to come back for. That's the best thing to come back for.
Oh, great.
No, we're seeing this across the country and across the state. But I'll tell you, it's like there's a matrix present. Like your last guest with Senator Johnson talking about what happened with Fauci. I often, if I post things that happened about COVID right now, people say, move on. Like, why are you still focused on this thing 6 years ago? Well, how about because no one's been held accountable? People were injured, like people died, and that, the government was taken over by, radicals that, were pushing their own beliefs on us and telling us that we don't have a choice. And so I think that as far as accountability goes, part of the issue is that we're seeing that there is no accountability. There hasn't been any accountability. And I think what you mentioned with these attorney generals is what I hope happens, what I want to see happen in Iowa, is we start looking at these state level issues of fraud, conspiracy, these types of things, and allow the lawyers to do what the lawyers do. But let it be known that, with me as governor, we are going to bring justice to the people of Iowa and join with these other states to bring justice to Anthony Fauci, because he has not been held accountable.
It's like incredibly cruel. So many people live outside in the state of Iowa. It's like a great outdoors state. And everybody has to spend their days outside because, well, there's not a lot of things that are close to each other in Iowa. And so to lock people down, it's one thing to lock people down in a city, but to lock people down in a state like Iowa is like particularly cruel. Here's a post that you sent yesterday. Every Iowan mother and father that lost a child in miscarriage after receiving the vaccine, I'll do everything I can to bring justice to you and justice for Fauci against Fauci as governor. I'm not going to stop fighting for you. So talk to me about this. What would justice look like here?
Well, I think it's what I started to mention, but you're talking about some of the breaking news that's just happening. We're now finally seeing what we needed. What do we need? Like, people knew what was going on, but what they're needing is the direct evidence from these text messages and things like that to show that there was not just knowledge, but potentially even intent in some of these, say that we know this would happen, we're going to do it anyways. And so we needed to give the evidence to the attorney generals, and also even on the lower level for prosecutors to be able to bring charges against Fauci, against the administration for what has happened. And people have been waiting for it. I mean, look, we saw churches shut down. I was for part of COVID, I was running schools. We had a network of schools. It was about 300. And I remember this was in a different state at the time, but we were told we had to shut down. Then we were told we had to mask. I was looking at the evidence out of Australia this summer of COVID, and because they're in an opposite cycle as us, and it was very clear this does not affect children. It's not harmful to children. There's transmission is very low in children. And so we just made the very simple decision. We're not going to mask. We're not going to social distance, because we understood the science was coming out. That study was subsequently deleted off the internet. You can't find it. I probably have it on my hard drive somewhere, but we know we weren't told the truth about this. And the bigger issue is that there's an attempt to memory hole this whole thing, like there has been. And so you have somebody like my opponent, Rob Sand, or Talarico in Texas, who just wants voters to forget that, this is what they did when they had power, is that they did everything they could to lock down churches, communities, keep you away from your neighbors, keep your kids out of school, and that they're just regular Democrats now. Like the JFK Democrat has come back. It hasn't. We know it hasn't. That's long gone. And this whole woke one is crazy hasn't actually stopped. It's still crazy. And they're just trying to hide it from us. And they're using these candidates who, may have at one point shot a deer or something like that. And so then they say, like, look, this is just like you, kind of like the farmers for Harris, that guy with his hands on his legs on the truck bench. Like, you grew up in Iowa. I never saw a farmer like that in my entire life. Like
sitting cross-legged on the bed of a truck, talking with a lisp. Yeah, no.
Didn't happen.
Yeah.
And so it's like they're trying to
broke back farmer. No, I'm sorry. Like,
yeah.
I think they actually went and found that those guys, they were all actors. Every single one of them actually was hired out of an acting firm. Yeah.
Well, it wouldn't surprise you, but that's what they're trying to put up. And then you see what happened. I mean, everybody's talked about Virginia, but what we're not talking about is what's happened since Spanberger was elected. She's now the least popular governor in Virginia's history, which goes back to Thomas Jefferson. It's a pretty big award to be able to win that. And so, their ideas don't sell, so they have to pretend like they are adopting regular ideas. It's why the Democrat Party is coming out on populist issues right now, because they cannot talk about what they really believe. My opponent, supports no limits on abortion, amnesty for illegals, giving illegals benefits. He supports gun control, all of these things, but he won't talk about it. Instead, before his rallies, he's singing America the Beautiful and trying to be a kumbaya unity candidate while blaming everything on Republicans and not talking about where he stands.
Will you promise as governor to do everything within your power to prosecute on a state level, Dr. Fauci?
Yes, within the power as governor. Now, being very clear, I try to be very precise with my speech. The governor has little in power here because we have other branches of government. We have the attorney general. But as far as the support that I can actually give to make sure that we're using our own resources for investigation, for all of this, absolutely. Now, what my hope is that we can start to work with the attorney general and the attorney generals around the country to be able to do this. Now, I don't know if you know much about how I got here, Benny, but I was the last person to get in this race. I had 1% when I was polling. I've never ran for anything in my life. And, I was under no illusion that I was going to win this primary. I was actually talking about deep issues and calling out special interests that have been pillaging our state for a very long time, just being frank with you. Mm-hmm. And so I was, we're fourth fastest in the country for our kids leaving the state. We also have the fastest rate of new cancer ever recorded in human history in Iowa. And so we have deep systemic issues. And so if you understand that our campaign has not been afraid to overturn every stone and call out special interests or corporate giants that are, doing what they're doing in the state through monopoly action and extorting our farmers, for instance, we're not going to be afraid to take this issue on. Not at all.
Why is Iowa the skyrocketing rate for cancer? Of course, I had to bury two of my grandparents for very quick cancers that moved very fast, and they were very young. They were just in their early 70s, and it sucked.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, my dad got non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Spent his life in the fields here in Iowa. And I grew up, doing that work with him. But I can't go to any town hall meeting. I'm telling you, we're at a VFW in Wapello right now on the far eastern side of the state along the Mississippi River. And I can't go to any town hall without one of the top questions being about cancer. And look, we're an outlier in Iowa, so we have to look at outlier circumstances. And I've been quite clear that for a very long time, we have been lied to by large agricultural conglomerates about the safety of the products. And the EPA is a captured agency. It has been for a very long time. It does the bidding of big industry. And so you look at some of the issues we're facing in Iowa, we have a very high nitrate load in our water and high nitrate loads coming off of fields. It's, high nitrate load is one of the top causes of colon cancer, one of the fastest killing cancers there is. Fungicides are linked to melanoma. This isn't about saying we need to ban everything, but we do have to start following some of these opportunities that Brooke Rollins and Bobby Kennedy are giving us to move in a different direction. And to also on the state level, which is what I want to do, is follow some of what Ron DeSantis did and say, we're going to do independent testing on the safety of products. We're not going to we're going to do labs in the state of Iowa, which we already have a number that are ready to do it, to give us the true safety on this. So farmers and consumers know what the real risk is. It's not about banning anything or everything. There are some products like Paraquat that we use in Iowa. Benny, Paraquat is actually used in research settings to induce Parkinson's in rats and mice. It's actually used for that. And it's sprayed on hundreds of thousands of acres of crops today. And so we're not getting the truth out of that. And let me just tell you the most egregious part about this. It was originally formulated by a company called Syngenta. They're now 100% owned by the Chinese government, and they have offices here in Iowa. China has banned this product. Syngenta has now said they're ceasing global production of it because of the health issues. And so we're in a situation where the nation of China wouldn't allow their people to use it, and a Chinese company made it. We're also in a situation where the company that makes it says we're no longer going to make it. And that all happened before any regulatory body stepped in to say we're going to protect consumers. So that's what capture looks like. And I think when I'm at these meetings, we just finished a town hall. When I'm at these meetings, I'm talking to, there's a woman here, 2-time cancer survivor, and then 3 or 4 people came up to me afterwards talking about what they're facing. We have to get down to the bottom of the truth of what's going on, and then start to put in place real incentives to change some of these practices to stop these products from getting into our streams in the first place, which we're talking about on a major way, putting some major funding towards this.
Goodness. I mean, would you be able to bring class action lawsuits would you be encouraging of that? If this seems like Aaron Brockovich style stuff, right? It hurts the soul because everybody I grew up with, there's nothing else in Shueyville, Iowa. There's a gas station, there's a bar, and they're connected. And, read into that for what you will, but
in that bar. I've been there,
and it's the salt of the earth, these people, right? I remember the old timers rolling in at 5 a.m. for their cup of coffee, to sit there and they eat a donut. And, and it's like, it makes me so sad, watching what's happening. They're decimating that industry, and maybe knowingly, they know these things cause cancers, and they continue to pump it into the farmers and into the food and into the soil, and just use humans as lab rats.
Well, one of the things that we're facing is that the Supreme Court just gave liability protections to these companies. There's been an effort to give immunity from liability, and I've been opposing this since day one. So now pesticide companies specifically have immunity from liability if their product harms somebody and they fail to warn about it, which is what there's many lawsuits about. Civil liability is a key part of the free market. The question I have often asked, are we actually in favor of the free market or not? Look, I'm all for tort reform. We shouldn't have egregious, frivolous lawsuits, and the judicial system in our country has been, in large part, taken over by radical leftists. We know that's true. But the same regard, you don't take away somebody's ability, just like the Vaccine Immunity Act of 1986. You don't take somebody's ability away to have recourse when they're harmed by a product, because you provide zero incentive for the company to make something better. None. And so that's what's now been given to them. But I'll say that, we have a lot of issues that are going on in the state, but we can solve a lot of these issues. It's going to be a long-term shifting of the ship or turning of the ship, but it is something that's reached ahead. I'm telling you, Benny, if you come out here and you talk to people, it's something you just can't avoid. And you shouldn't, Des Moines, Iowa at one point had the world's largest nitrate removal facility on their water supply. Now it's the second, but they just got a $25 million allocation to expand it. I toured it the other day, and it can't keep up during the summer seasons. But look, here's the bigger issue, though, I'll say, is that farmers are losing choice in competition and what they're in their industry. It's one of the few industries where you have zero say over the price you're selling your product for, none. So when we were growing up in Iowa in the 80s and 90s, there were 300 to 400 seed fertilizer input companies selling products all over the state in the Midwest. Today, 3 companies control 85% of the market. It's long past the point of a monopoly. And you see, Brooke Rollins and Donald Trump are now talking about some of these issues. But on the state level, what we can do is start to bring antitrust suits against these companies and start to break them apart like Teddy Roosevelt broke apart JP Morgan and Standard Oil. Not here to settle. We're here to actually make an example and do the right thing, because our farmers are just being extorted on prices. 25% of our state, the state that you and I grew up in, that we love, is now owned by people who don't live here. Out-of-state investors and funds are buying the land. And our young people just can't get onto farms. You cannot get into a farm operation and start a farm if you're a young person. You can't afford it. There's no way a bank will finance you. There's no way you can afford the equipment. You have to have parents and land already and equipment to get into it. So my programs are to shift this whole narrative, to start putting in place programs to help young people get onto land, stop China and other people from buying our land, which we have a program to do that too. So this is what we're working on.
So awesome. Maybe my final question here for you, and then I could talk about this for hours, and I look forward to it. Let's work with our teams to find a good date to go out. We were thinking about going to the state fair. Maybe that would be a good time to do this. How do you keep young people in Iowa? I didn't leave Iowa because of any type of reticence, or I tried to stay in Iowa actually and return there many times, but for what we were doing with the tech angle and with political media and doing it on a national scale, I gravitated to DC, but the magnets for certain industries tend to pull people out of Iowa. How do you keep young people in Iowa?
Well, it's one of the things. This is something I've been thinking about for a very long time, because I was one of those kids. I graduated from Sioux City East, started college at Iowa Central, moved out to Boulder, Colorado, went to college, and then came back in 2013. I actually bought my family's homestead back into the family in 2014. That was 105-year homestead, and that's where we live today. And so it's on my mind all the time. How do my kids and grandkids have the opportunity to stay? And some of the things they want to do, like adventure is good, right? Like my dad used to say, you want your kids to have roots and wings, like the confidence to go out there, but also the understanding of where they came from. And so you, like being in that media at the time you're doing it, it would have been very difficult to do it from Iowa, most likely. Now, with the advent of all the new technologies, what you're doing right now, you can do anywhere. It's a quality of life thing. So here's what I look at when I look at this. It's like, how are we using the government of Iowa to promote the well-being of the people of Iowa and to start to put in place programs to have them stay here? So one of the things I'm talking about is very simple. And by the way, I was called a socialist by a Republican for this once. I'm like, keeping more of your tax money is the opposite of socialism. But if you graduate from my high school and you want to stay, and you can sign up for a program that says you have a complete income tax abatement for X many years, and that money would go into an account to help you with the down payment on your first home. Same thing would apply if you moved away and want to come back. If you have a remote job, if you're working the trades, if you're in nursing, which we have a shortage of right now, we have to start putting in place programs to say, we want you here. Part of this is just the narrative, Benny. It's like, when we were growing up, there wasn't this big effort to try to keep people here. It's like, there's more things out there. There's something better out there. Go. We have to completely flip that on its head, because our rural hospitals are closing. Doctors are getting trained here at University of Iowa or Drake and leaving, or DMU, I'm sorry, and leaving. And we have needs here in our communities, and we have a great quality of life. And ultimately, when you start having kids, which one of the things that draws you back is you want to be around your family. And so we have one of the best things you could have. So here's a couple thoughts. Number one, the Iowa Economic Development Authority is one of the most powerful agencies within government. It's one that recruits companies in to the state. I want to shift the focus that they're doing and stop giving these large tax incentives to global companies and start to invest in Iowa's homegrown businesses. Because when the economy goes bad, they're the last people to cut the jobs of their friends, their neighbors, that people go to church with. Start building our industry here. Start to recruit new industries to move their headquarters here. Like, we're trying to get off pesticides and herbicides because the cost and the health issues. Well, there are robotics companies that are now developing out the solutions and delivering tons of machines to use electricity, UV light, all of this to completely eliminate the need for these chemicals. Well, when they're in their small stage, we can roll the red carpet out for them to move their headquarters here to become an Iowa business and put them in Ames, where Iowa State engineering students will graduate and start to build the next $10 billion company, like Vermeer or something like that. We have to start saying that these dollars, these scarce resources we have, are going towards companies in Iowa or whose headquarters are in Iowa, because you give all this money to this multinational company, they come in, the economy gets bad, they literally shut down the factory and ship it to Mexico. It's wrong. It's the complete opposite. Then the other part is on the agriculture side. I'm going to start treating family farms as entrepreneurial activities, where if you're a young farmer that wants to get into it and you want to move away from just corn and soybeans or something like that into, rotationally grazed cattle or whatever, that you can present a plan. And it's not just the big guys that get incentives, that you can have help on perimeter fencing, water infrastructure, GPS collars for cattle, things like that, to start to diversify your farms, bring more life to our rural communities. The final thing I'll say is I met with Brooke Rollins 2 weeks ago, but I came with an agenda. And my agenda was very simple. There's one regulation we can change within the USDA to allow Iowa's family farms to sell food into Iowa's public schools. Right now, the USDA gives a subsidy for most of it, but only the big guys are eligible: Smithfield, JBS, Tyson, Cargill. I'm going to develop a procurement platform for the state of Iowa that's going to connect family farms to public schools. And we are going to start to put in place 10, 20, 30% metrics of how much food served in our public schools is going to come from the state of Iowa. My goal is to get to 80%. That will completely bring complete new life to rural communities, get people off the sideline and give them a market they can sell into. So if you start to rebuild your family farms, if you tackle the cancer crisis, if you make public education number one in the nation again, which it was when I was a kid in Iowa, you'll start to see our kids stay, especially if you're incentivizing the right types of businesses to be in Iowa, specifically Iowa's homegrown businesses, and start to incentivize our entrepreneurs. So those are some of the things I think. But ultimately, you're not going to want to live here if the water isn't clean and the cancer rate's high. So that's one of the top things we have to fight.
Yeah, and if the state is run by an open borders, elitist, gender-bending lib, who you're running against, Mr. Sand, Mr. Rob Sand. Never heard of this guy. I looked at his record. He's like, he's just like Elizabeth Warren. He's just like a Joe Biden record. Just like a classic, like.
He was the campaign chair for Biden.
Douchey liberal.
Yeah. The average, he's an urban hunter. He hunts from the parking lots of Walmart, and then, is trying to, act like a regular average Iowan in that regard. It's all a caricature. It's a theater. I tell people it's a theatrical performance. And so,
it's so funny that you just said that elicits such and anybody watching here from a rural community, that's a ton of our audience knows exactly what you just said there.
Oh yeah.
That is a shot across the bow. That is a major drag in Iowa. Well done. Okay. Well, I look forward to connecting. Hopefully we can do something at the state fair. And I don't know, man, the cancer rates might go up by 1 if I eat too much fried butter, but it's, you only got one life to live.
State fair gets a complete exemption. So
okay. Thanks, Zach. Everybody follow Zach. He's got to be the next governor of the state of Iowa. This has been a fascinating, eye-opening interview. Wow, a guy who actually knows the state and loves it and knows the actual issues and isn't scared to talk about them. Godspeed, Zach. Thank you.
Thank you, Benny.
What a show. Man, we just went all over with the topics, but we stayed kind of in the Midwest, right? Except for our pollster from New Jersey. What's up, guys? Okay. Isaiah 60:22, our verse of the day. When the time is right, I, the Lord, will make it happen. Love that. What a great verse. I, the Lord, will make it happen when the time is right. That's why we never doom. Never black pill. Never black pill. We will never black pill on this program. God's got us. You got to keep the faith. You got to keep fighting. There's always been scary enemies of America and of our movement. And we can win. And we do win. And ultimately, the victory ain't ours. Ultimately, the victory is God's. God establishes the governments. He establishes the nations. The Gospels are very clear about this. Romans is very clear about this. And it's for us to do good and to continue this march. And so march with us as we continue to fight and take back the Great Lakes and take back the country. And lucky us, our enemies are just morons. Lucky us. We have a great fight and a great country to save and a great place to leave to our children. So let's get about it. March with us on to victory. It's your boy Benny. See ya.
Where the truth gon' be, faith and freedom on your your TV screen. Stand up strong, battle through the night. The Benny Show's here, bringing liberty to light. From the speeches to debates, Benny sharp like a blade. Cutting through the lies, watch the truth cascade. With the warrior's heart, this man never fades. You know it's prime time when Benny invades. From saving the nation to stories untold, the Benny Show's a storm, see the truth unfold. Stay in the loop, let freedom take hold. Salting all the libs, soul never sold. It's the Benny Show, where the truth gon' be. Faith and freedom on your TV screen. Stand up strong, battle through the night. The Benny Show's here, bringing liberty to light. Liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Liberty to light. Bringing liberty to life. From the speeches to debates, Benny sharp like a blade. Cutting through the lies, watch the truth cascade. With the warrior's heart, this man never fades. You know it's prime time when Benny invades. From saving the nation to stories untold, the Benny Show's a storm, see the truth unfold. Stay in the loop, let freedom take hold. Salting all the libs, soul never sold. It's the Benny Show, where the truth gon' be. Faith and freedom on your TV screen. Stand up strong, battle through the night. The Benny Show's here, bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light. Bringing liberty to light.